On the top floor of a high-rise building, a company of 11 people from high society is sitting at a banquet table. The men are dressed in expensive suits. The ladies have elaborate hairstyles and exquisite jewelry. Many waiters and footmen serve the company, and a duet of strings and a grand piano plays for them. A banquet steward with a piercing gaze oversees the proceedings. We see an abundance of sumptuous meat dishes on the table, which the guests greedily devour. Waiters helpfully bring up new dishes, but the company's appetite only increases. Remaining silent, the guests eat the meat of crocodile, shark, dog, lion, and other animals, including raw meat, lustily. Only one woman at the table finds this strange. She looks around with incomprehension and hesitates to eat. Soon the plank floor beneath the richly appointed table cannot bear the weight of the dishes and begins to creak. The waiters and musicians realize what will happen next and furtively glance around. In a moment, the floor with the table and all the guests collapse to the floor below with a terrible crack. The attendants are not at all surprised. The banquet manager makes a few notes in his notebook and then tells someone on the conference machine, "Next floor." The musicians pick up their instruments and quickly carry them to the lower floor. A huge hanging chandelier is also moved downstairs. Under the leadership of the hostess, the waiters with the new dishes follow in an orderly fashion to the lower hall. The guests come to their senses after the fall. They are seated and remain unharmed, merely streaked with plaster. The footmen helpfully brush the dust off each of them. The cleanest remains the woman who has not touched meat until now. She looks with pity and disgust at the new dishes the waiters bring in. And there is much to see, for the guests are about to be treated to the cooked armadillo, rare antelope, and rhinoceros meat. The meal continues as if nothing had happened. Beautiful classical music plays again, and the guests gorge themselves on the dishes with gusto. Only one woman attempts to keep the hand of the waiter away from her plate as he offers her a new dish. The waiter quickly looks at the banquet manager and forcibly puts strange sausages on her plate. Soon history repeats itself. The floor can't take the weight, and the table with the guests sinks even lower. The waiter again dials next floor, and the attendants rush to the lower floor. But even before they arrive, the table falls again. The same happens several times until the table finally stays on one of the floors. The prudent attendant suspects that the table will fall again, so he waits for the guests on the floor below in advance. The group at the table is stained with plaster, and the dishes are also riddled with dust. However, this does not prevent the guests from casting predatory glances at each other and greedily continuing their meal. But one of the guests is not very well. He sits motionless in an armchair with an artificial feeding tube in his mouth. The others pay no attention to him and continue to gorge themselves bloodily despite their gagging and the loud creaking of the floor. The woman, who has not eaten anything so far, casts her neighbors a frantic look. A tear runs down her cheek. Immediately a general frenzy overtakes the woman, and she greedily shovels chunks of meat into her mouth. In the behavior of the guests, not a trace of their former elegance remains. They are constantly choking and coughing, stealing food from each other's plates, and laughing disgustingly. The floor beneath them cracks and collapses again. But now, the table doesn't linger on either floor. It flies past the astonished waiters and falls lower and lower, punching the floor beneath it each time. A huge crystal chandelier flies after it. The guests scream and struggle to hold onto the table. The waiters stare into the bottomless hole in the floor with horror and inordinate amazement. Only the banquet manager remains calm. He looks into the camera with a piercing gaze as if mocking what had just happened.